Hey, what's up everyone? In this video, I will show you how I created this stylized character in Blender, Marmoset Toolbag and Substance Painter. It is the continuation of the series I am doing to share my journey on YouTube of stylized art. This is the third model I am creating and you can watch the previous videos on my channel. It took longer than I expected because I didn't know what I was doing and I picked up something above my skill. This video will be divided into multiple parts. The first part will be about blockout, the second part will be about sculpting, and after that topology, UV unwrapping, baking, last but not least the texturing. The first thing I did is went to the Pinterest and searched for stylized art. By taking some inspiration, I drew my model by mouse. Yes, by mouse. So here I am loading the reference in my Blender and starting to block out with a cube and adding subdivision. It's really important to get your big shapes correct before going to the detail. So I'm doing the block out before doing the sculpting. As you can see, I'm playing around with the head to get a character head which is a bit realistic but not also realistic and stylized like Disney. I am experimenting with the neck to get a broader neck, small and broader neck with the shoulders. After that, I started with the armor, which you can see, and created the hole for the arms. I was going for like the triangle shape character, which you can mostly see in Disney or stylized games. There is nothing much complicated. I am just using the primitive modeling techniques to get the block out. It's the most easiest part, but also the most important part. You want to be sure about your scale and proportions. I don't know much about modeling hands and not good with the anatomy, so I went with the simple hands. As you can see, I'm turning on the subdivision on and off because I was not sure about which style I was going for. There are two ways you can do stylized art, like exporting your low poly and then just painting over that. The way I did it is sculpting over your low poly and then baking those maps. So I was not sure at this point, but later I just went with the sculpting. Here I was making the fur for the character, which like you see, which you see on Viking, the made from the fur of wolves, sheep, or I don't know what they hunted. Still keeping everything simple. I also added a small shield on the left hand to break the symmetry. Now I am adding the beard and mustache by adding a cube with subdivision modifier and just using simple sculpting to get the correct shape. Still not going into the detail, just correcting the shape. And after that, I did the same process for the mustache. And with this, our low poly was completed, as you can see here. And after that, the sculpting started. So I will only cover the sculpting of this bag because sculpting took a very long time and I don't want to make this video a lot longer. So I will just show the back process and skip all the other parts. Here I am trying to make the model correct and solve any problems. Also making it a little bit stylized by scaling up and scaling down and just making it realistic. The way I went about sculpting is adding crease edges to what I want to be sharp or bevels and adding subdivision to make the curves a bit smoother. I repeated the same process for the belt and the buckle, and after that I just added a remesh modifier to get equal density across the mesh. The first thing I did was to making the edges a bit beveled, but it didn't work out for the back because it's more of a cloth, so I later smoothed these out. This worked better for the metal parts. Here I am doing the same thing for the strap. Just normal sculpting, nothing too complicated. I bit I went a bit rough with the buckle because it was a metal and I wanted to show this with the sculpt to differentiate from the clothes or leathers. After that I started adding the details to the bag, like these beveled corners, making them smoother and more stylized. Just making the simple bag a bit interesting. Doing the same thing on the other side. Also on the top on the both sides. After that I started to add the wrinkles on the bag, like which you get from the straps by tightening the strap. It looked cool. It's important to have your references open to get the wrinkles correct. I just went with my brain, which is not a good idea. Still the final result looked good, so I just left it. So I left it like this. Here you can see I'm smoothing out those edges because they were not looking good. So making them a bit smoother, more like a bag or leather. After that I started adding the big details to the bag, like the big wrinkle. I'm using only this one brush most of the time because it gave me the best result. I'm sculpting with my mouth, so I don't have a lot of control over the brush, but it was fine most of the time. Here I'm doing the same wrinkle on the front. Doing this doing the same smooth edges for the strap also. Here it was making a bit of mess, so I just masked the inside out and then sculpted. With style like that, you don't want to leave anything flat. Just add a little bit of deformation or imperfection. Just adding, now I'm adding the dents and scratches to the metal part. It's my first ever detailed model of sculpt in Blender, so maybe it's good, it's not, I don't know, but I learned a lot of things. And with this, my sculpting was completed. I just did all the other model like this, which you can see, and it turned out great. Now it was time for retopology. I did the retopology by snapping the vertices to the faces and using the magnet tool. Here I am just tracing over the bag with as low as I could get with the vertices to keep the poly count low because it's like a game ready. Just nothing too complicated, just tracing over the bag with the magnet. You don't have to match the bag exactly or your model, just roughly around, just roughly around the edges. The baking will take care of other thing. I was choosing between like adding the big wrinkles to the model locally and a small to be baked. Now I repeated the process for the armor. It's better to start from the circular areas so you get a good topology flow. But this was a static mesh and nothing to be like rigged for changing its shape. So it doesn't matter, I think. Just going around the mesh and filling the surfaces. Here I'm doing the belt, just sharing snippets from like a different model so you get the idea. It was pretty simple, there's nothing hard, just took a bit of time. I also use shrink rank modifier here and there to get like the shape correct. But most of the time I went with the magnet tool. Here I am doing the shield. The best way is to like do the outline and then fill the empty areas. And here you can see I'm like making the scratch part of the low poly for some depth. Then went with the inside, same process for the inside, just filling them up and then extruding and scaling. As you can see, I'm using the shrink wrap modifier. Also reducing the vertices as we go smaller. Here I am doing the arm. The topology may be not correct, but I was pretty satisfied with it. As I did for the shield, I was doing the same for the arm. Started with a lot of segments, then increasing as I go smaller and smaller. I'm not very familiar with like the topology process, so just doing my best to get the better result. The heads were pretty simple because I didn't do the fingers, so it was just a small glove type shape, winter gloves. Now I started with the face. First I just checked up a few references on Google how the face topology work. But I didn't have the mouth or eyes, so it was not very difficult to get the flow. I started with the nose and just moved outward. Also the chin area and jaw will be not shown because it will be under the beard. So just keeping it a bit simple. The eyebrows are also part of the head, which I painted later. I will just skip through the other part because it's the same process for everything. Nothing difficult. Also just make sure to name your models correctly so when baking it don't create problems and you don't have to like check every name and everything. And our model was completed with 13.5K tries. Now it was time for the UV unwrapping. First I created a material, name it anything like you want. I created only one material because I was going for one texture set for the whole character. Then created a UV grader so I can see my UVs if they are correct or not. I will only show the process of the bag like what I did with the sculpting. Here I am marking sharp only those edges which are about on like 85 or 90 degree to get a correct shading. Also set the auto smooth to 180 to so that it will only mark sharp those that you do. Also remember to add the weighted normal and triangle modifier. Then just use the sharp edges to mark them seam. Here I am straightening them like to create more space in the UV. It's a good practice to straight your UV islands. I am using the UV pack master add-on so I can just easily assign or make the inside smaller which are not visible to the camera. Now I am doing the same process for the strap, making the curve edges sharp. Same for the buckle. Now select all and pack them. With that our UVs were done and it was time for the baking. So I exported my models in a folder named export. It's important to keep everything organized. Select your low poly and press the select objects and then do same for the high poly. Now I opened Marmoset toolbag. I use I use Marmoset toolbag for baking because it's a lot better than Substance Painter, and I have an option to change the cage on the fly. I can also paint skew. Here you can see I can just easily import and export with the blender. It's very easy to change the cage from Substance Painter. Just checking every part of the model to make sure there are no baking errors. Here you can see I'm painting the skew, which is very efficient and better than a Substance Painter, a lot faster. Just paint them with the brush and press the bake button. It will do all the things. I only bake normal map in Marmoset toolbag and then bake other maps in the Substance Painter. It's just personal opinion. And our baking was done and it was time for texturing. So for the texturing, I opened Substance Painter and imported my file. Change it to 4K and OpenGL because my normal map is OpenGL. Now I started setting up my scene for Substance Painter and baking all the other maps. Curvature, ambient occlusion. The first thing I did is assigning simple colors to the model to get an idea, not going into the details like block out. I also had Pinterest open from where I could get like ideas and inspiration, as you can see. Just keeping the basic color and not going into details. Now I'm adding curvature and ambient occlusion to get the big highlights and shadows. When using blur, you can get some artifact on your seam, so make sure to be careful. I'm painting them out manually. Also, I'm using the knife brush, which is very good for stylized sculpting. It gives the painterly look. Here I am doing like the sharp highlights. Also using the blur slope, which is a favorite filter of every stylized artist. Also using some grunge maps to create variation in the base color. I was not sure about like the style I want to go for. I do like realistic texturing in Substance Painter and it's my first time doing stylized, so I was not sure like what do I want to do here. Just testing out. This armor took most of the time. The other went very quick when I realized what I want to do. Here I'm just painting the highlights and shadows. Also some bouncing of light. I was doing this with like my realistic method, which is not the correct way. And it led to creating like a lot of layers. Meanwhile, for style that you need a few layers to like paint. Trying to blend the highlights with the background. If you have used Photoshop, you will be very familiar with the layer system. Here you can see I painted a ambient occlusion. Now when I started with this golden part, I realized I need to paint with the brush most of the stuff. I just use two layer for AO and highlight to get the bigger shapes and then do everything with the brush. And the result got a lot better. Manually painting the shadows, highlights and everything. It was also a very fun process. Now moving to the ring of the beard, doing the same process as the golden. First adding highlight and AO, and after that starting hand painting. I'm doing this with the mouse, so I don't have much control over the brush, but in the future I will try to get a tablet. As you can see, the result finally was looking better than the previous I was doing for the armor. Did the same method for the leather, but kept everything a bit smoother to create a difference between the metal and the leather. That's giving it the small sharp highlights. Blending things together to make it look better, adding shadows. Now I went to the like a skin. I didn't know what to do with the skin because it was stylized and what to add and how to differentiate. So I tried adding like the pink reddish on the cheeks, nose to create where the blood gather. The color was not looking very well, so I kept changing it. Also, I painted the eyebrows. Here you can see I'm adding the reddish pink color on the ears, hands, where the subsurface scattering happens, like the light passes through the skin. Here I am painting the under hair layer, or what do you call it, hairline. Just breaking up the skin to get a bit of texturing. Repeating the process of the metal for the buckle. First adding the highlight and ambient occlusion, and then just going with the hand. I'm still not sure about like what style I want to go for, so I will be practicing around in the coming videos. Make sure to turn on the bell icon so you get notified about my videos. Also let me know in the comment like what you want me to create next. Here I made the hairline a bit lighter. The other one was a bit darker. I didn't like that. Now with the glove I am doing the same process of the belt, making it a bit smoother to give away the look of leather, but still give it the highlights and shadows. And the beautiful blur slope filter make everything beautiful. I was getting very comfortable with the painting with the hand, so maybe next time I will try directly painting on the low poly and not doing the high poly. Maybe not, we will see. Blending the skin a bit more. I was having a lot of fun with the painting, so I just kept coming back to everything to make them more better. It's like literally my first model to ever hand paint. Now going for the back. giving different color to the edges of the bag to make a break the shape. It was looking it was looking beautiful. Now adding the big highlights and shadows like always. Then moving on with my brush, painting over the folds and inside it with the shadows. Same for the front. Now it was for now it was time for painting the shoes. Same process, base layer, highlight, ambient occlusion, and painting. Just repeat these 4 layers again and again, and you will get your stylized art beautiful. It's just about practice. I kept the beard wide because I didn't know what to do with that. So yeah, and giving a different color to the base of the pants. Repeating the same stuff. Big highlights, small highlights, adding shadows. And that's it for this video. I will make sure to make simple object in upcoming videos. I hope you enjoyed that, and make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on the bell notification to get notified. See you later in the next video. Bye bye.